My name is Ursula Darby, and I am a public speaker, a certified grief educator, and a psychic medium. And I've been on the front line of grief and spirit and survival for over 21 years. And I'm also a former stand up comedian. This podcast tells the truth about this work, how it started for me, what it's really like, and the parts that no one will say aloud. I'm a skeptic. I hate cliches and the garbage in this industry. You won't get that here. This is episode 4. Now, in episode 3, I was finishing up and I had talked about two different friends. One was a psychic. I'll continue on an episode about episode 5 about them. And the person that the friendship ended with me knowing about how her dad had passed and that really affected me. You obviously heard that, but not even but there's so many more experiences that I want to share with you. So moving forward, around the same kind of timeline, I had a boyfriend at the time, and I had stayed over at his house, and he had gone to work really early in the morning. Of course, I slept in because I'm just not a morning person. And I knew that there was no one home in the house because I knew that everyone was gone. And I was starting to kind of wake up. And as I was waking up, I heard the front door open and close, and I heard them walk into the kitchen, and I heard the tap go on, and I heard them washing their hands because I could hear the water hitting the steel sink. And of course, they worked in a really messy, dirty jobs. They cleaned up. I'm like, oh, they're going to come up and say hi to me. They turned the tap off, and then I heard them walking up the stairs, padding up the stairs. I could hear them, creaking on the floors and on the stairs. And I was waiting for them to greet me at the door into the room where I was in, and no one showed up. I thought that was kind of strange because maybe they had walked around the house and I was like, oh, maybe they're hiding or being silly and stuff because he was very funny and very kind, wonderful person. And so I got up and I was like, oh, they're probably hiding on me. This is silly. So I got up and I looked around the other rooms to see if anyone was home. There was no one home upstairs. I'm like, oh, it's kind of odd. So I made it downstairs to the main floor, walked to the front door, checked, looked around, went through the living room, went through the kitchen. I was looking everywhere. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. They're probably in the basement. Went down to the basement. I walked all the way around the basement and there was no one there. I felt them. I heard them. I just didn't see them. And I thought that they were my partner. So I was like, okay, this doesn't feel good. This is not okay. And so raced back upstairs, got dressed. And as soon as he walked in the door, I was waiting. And as soon as he walked in the door, I'm like, hey, you know what? This thing happened. It was like this and this. And he was like, oh my gosh, I always thought that because I had not told anyone. I'm going to continue to say this to all of you. Had not told anyone about my experiences. I didn't share that with anyone because I was scared because I didn't understand what was happening to me. I thought there was something wrong with me and I just couldn't make sense out of it. So I kept it to myself and I was still having nightly experiences wherever I stayed, just like this one. And he had said, oh my gosh, you know what? I've always heard something. And I'm like, what do you mean you heard something? He's like, oh, he literally said to me, I thought that a construction worker that had built these homes had died on site, and that's who it was. And I was like, okay, let's just go to breakfast. Let's leave the house. And he's like, we're going. He got changed. And we left. And it was funny at the time because he made light of it and he always had a really good sense of humor. And I was like, oh, it played on my mind. It scared me. It really scared me. And so meeting that psychic friend and having them talk about their experiences and what they knew and what I was going through, I still didn't put a name or a label to things because I didn't know. So I started to embark upon trying to trying to learn. Literally, what I did was I started reading every book that I could find. And at that time, the most popular books that I can recall off the top of my head or authors that I can recall, The Celestine Prophecy was really important, really popular at the time. I'd read that. I had read different authors, Rosemary L. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. I hope so. I remember reading like a Yellen Van Zant. I read about Daniel Brinkley, and I was like, oh, yes, kind of makes sense. Dr. Oh my gosh, now the name's gonna Many Lives, Many Masters, I think it was, talking about reincarnation. So all these things that I was reading about had stirred up a lot within me And there was more books than that. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head what I'd read, and I just kept reading the next book and the next book and the next book. And now my friend would say to me, the psychic friend would say, read this book, but every time she said read this book, I didn't know what the fuck it was about. I just found it really confusing. So I would just put it down and not finish it. And I just kept reading and reading and reading and taking books out of the library and buying books and just and going to spiritual stores, like mystical stores, right? Like witchy stores, that kind of stuff, because I think that's what people would probably call it now. And I kept looking for myself in these books, and I couldn't find me. I couldn't connect the dots. That just wasn't happening. So I kept looking. And so in my search of, going to different stores and talking to people, I started learning about teachers, spiritual teachers that would teach different courses and classes. And I'm like, okay, let's take some classes. So I met this person, and she was a spiritual teacher, which was well known in my community at that time. And I took like an afternoon class with her. I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember specifically what it was, some kind of introduction or energy work, because that's what people call it, energy work. And so I remember taking that and meeting her and striking up a friendship. And she was older than me. She'd had a family, and she had just split with her partner. So she was, I think there was like I don't know, almost 20-year age gap. I don't really care about ages with people when I become friends. Doesn't matter to me. But I mean, I wanted to kind of give you some perspective as I say this to you, because as I met her, she spoke with clarity, confidence, arrogance, I guess you could say. Um, just the things that she knew, and into wellness and well-being, and that these things were all new to me. So I was very naive. And so I put a lot of energy into, well, I mean, because if I couldn't find myself in those books, and if I couldn't understand what I was going through, then how was I going to do that unless someone else would help me do that? And that's what I told myself, like someone's bound to help me, right? Like someone's, I'm going to notice something in a conversation with somebody. Something's going to click somewhere. Something's going to fall into place somewhere for me where I'm going to be like, oh, just, I got this. I get it. I started taking classes with this person, and one of them was something that I actually still use to this day, personally, not professionally. She had taught, and I can't remember the name of the class itself, but the technique was learning muscle testing, and I found it valuable. It was interesting because what you would do, because now I'm going to explain a bit of it now, aren't I? You would hold an item in your hand, um, and the other person, and she would muscle test like your arm, like if your arm would drop. I know it doesn't make sense in explaining it this way, but if your arm would drop, if you're holding this supplement, this food, this thing, then it was something that did not align with you. It wasn't something that was good for you. It wasn't something that you were going to benefit from. So I was like, oh, that's helpful. Like that's really helpful. I could probably use that. And so I use it on my own arm. Not that you're watching it, but I'm muscle testing my arm as I speak to you. And you would get a yes, no answer. I do. That's what I would do. And so I took these different modules of courses. They were months on end. And over that time, we became friends. And I learned about her life, her experiences. She had a big personality. So she sold what she said. And I believed her. And some of the things she said I found very valuable. And other things I was like, meh, take what you want, leave the rest. Like you've heard people say that. And I met a couple of her friends, and they were into the same kinds of things as well, but they did different modalities as well. I'm like, oh, I'm making this group of friends. Like this is pretty cool. It's gosh, like I'm a part of a group now. Like maybe I'm going to be seen for what I do in some way. Things that I'm telling myself, right? It felt good to be around people that were discussing, I mean, energy work and muscle testing, and like talking about the Celestine prophecy, talking about different authors and books, because that would come into conversation as well. And point, but this other person had their own insights with the things that they did and the practices that they used. And these two together had years and years and years and years and years upon on me with experience. So I followed them. I put my faith in them. It's an odd thing to say. That's kind of where I was because I'm trying to understand myself. And in any of these meetings or get-togethers or hangouts or anything, I don't remember ever telling them what I was going through. I do recall talking about um, relationships and things at home and the kind of general things in life and who you're spending time with, who you're friends with, what do you do, that kind of stuff. And I remember this new friend of mine saying, I've got to go away for the weekend, but someone has to take care of the dog. Could you stay at my place? And I was like, no problem. Love dogs. Got it. I'm on it. And her dog kind of scared me. And I'm not scared of animals. It must have been like shepherd husky kind of mix. Gorgeous dog. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to make friends with her now. And, she had left, she'd gone for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days or whatever. And, the usual, make my meals, mill about, do my thing. And and so, I climbed into bed, not thinking anything, get into bed. And her dog came in the room and slept on the floor beside me, which was really sweet. And I felt it. I felt that presence. I knew that I wasn't alone, and there was no one in the building. There was no one in the home except for the dog and I. And I felt that discomfort and I felt that fear just like I stopped moving, right? Like I breathed shallow and like I'm in my early 20s at this point and I'm scared. I'm frightened. And I have this really scary dog that I'm just trying to become friends with that I've got to care for the next few days. And now there's something in the room and I'm so frightened and this continued. So frightened, too afraid to get out of bed, afraid to even get out to go to the bathroom, afraid to move anything, afraid to put on the light. And I could feel presence there. I heard movement in the room, and there's just the two of us there. I heard things moving, I heard sounds, and I'm awake, just about to fall asleep. I feel I'm awake, I'm not asleep. And eventually I fall asleep, I'm sure. And it continues each night. Each night I'm terrified. Each night I'm scared. Each night I'm not getting any sleep. I'm getting really bitter. I'm getting really angry, getting very frustrated because I'm not getting any sleep whatsoever. And I don't know what to do. And I'm too embarrassed to call her to tell her because she's away or saying it because like this is ridiculous. Really, like I'm an adult. Like I should be able to deal with this, right? Like I should be able to take accountability and be responsible and like not make fucking stories up because maybe that's what I was doing. Like maybe it just made me question everything about myself and my experiences. And I felt awful. And when she came home, I asked her how her trip was and what was going on and how things went. And she had a great time. She's really happy and which is good to see because I know she'd had a hard time. And so I was there to be supportive of her as her friend. And I thought she was great. And so I got the courage to tell her that something was up with our house. And she was just like, what? And I said, just, I couldn't sleep. There was noises in the house. And she's like, oh, it's probably the dog. I'm like, no, the dog was asleep on the floor beside me because she was within reach of me. I could glance to see that she was there. She didn't go anywhere. And she's like, oh, it's just probably just the house creaking. I'm like, no, there was things moving. Like there was something, like there's something wrong. Like I don't know what the heck it is, but something's wrong. And she's like, oh, fine, whatever. Goes and gets a stick of sage, lights it up, and starts walking around the house. And as she's walking around the house, I see her look at me. And she's like, oh, if there's anything that's here. And she's glancing at me and she's rolling her eyes, mocking me. Totally and completely mocking me and making fun of me. And her tone is awful. Like the word just, yeah, mocking me. Like, oh, if there's something here, just you can go home now. You can go to the light and you can leave my friend alone and whatever. And she's going on and on and on. And there's absolutely no authenticity. She's completely disingenuous. And she's making fun of the experiences that I'd had since I was 5. And that made me feel worse. And it's making me feel sick saying it to you. I feel really nauseous saying it to you because I thought she meant it. I thought that she meant to help me, right? Like she's went to go get some tools or stuff and things. Like I said, she got a smudge stick, crystals, whatever she got. And she was coming down the stairs. And as she was coming down the stairs, she's like rolling her eyes at me saying, well, we're just going to clear the house of anything that's here. We're just, and I knew then that I was like, what a horrible fucking person. But I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the insight that she had. I didn't have the know-how that she had because she had that same kind of posturing, I know things, this big personality, and would take over in conversations and kind of a know-it-all, kind of like kind of like the psychic friend that I had. But I didn't really put two and two together at the time. And I felt like someone pulled the rug out from under me and was just like, you're a joke, Ursula. You're an absolute fucking joke. That's how she made me feel, with how she treated me and the words that she chose. And the whole time she was just making fun of me. And I didn't feel understood. I didn't feel seen. And I felt stupid. I felt stupid and embarrassed for telling her because I thought for certain that she would have been supportive and kind and understanding and helped me and to help me understand what was going on. And she also complained to me that she was irritated that I couldn't just have a nice time and stay at her home, that she had to make it into something and make it about myself and make up some story of what I'd been experiencing. So she was really pissed off about that. And I was like, what the fuck? So I started to pull away from her, obviously. And I certainly didn't feel drawn to her anymore in the way that I had. And I pulled away from her and her other friends. And I didn't tell her anything anymore. And I just know how the friendship ended, and it was her yelling at me and her attacking my character and siding with someone who'd been really abusive and manipulative to me with me. Like it just I was describing a situation with her and she launched into this attack of my character and saying that I was in victim mode. Fucking hate that. I'm pretty sure it came from her too. Like, oh, you're playing the victim, you're in victim mode, you just need to, and all that fucking spiritual jargon that started to become familiar to me, where I was like, what is this? Like, where is this coming from? And that friendship ended shortly after that. I didn't see this pattern. Looking back now and sharing it with you, I didn't really put it together. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom about things. I'm sharing with you because I want you to understand how I was looking for myself. I was looking for understanding. I was looking to make the parts fit about what I was going through. And it just wasn't happening. I do have another story about kind of that same kind of time frame where I um, or I had taken another class. In fact, I took a Reiki class, which is Reiki's people talk about energy work and hands-on healing. It's pretty common. I'm not going to leap into what energy work or what Reiki is, but I'd taken this class because I was looking for teachers. I was looking for support. I was looking for insight. And I'm like, I'll just keep trying these different things. I don't know, just to see what it's like, just to see what it's all about. And like I said, I benefited from learning about muscle testing. I took a bit from that, but I wasn't really practicing it or using it. I was using it for myself to, yeah, but I wasn't working with anyone else with it. So I met this other teacher and he was teaching this class and it was like a day-long class. And I'd met new people there and I was just like, oh, it's kind of cool. And, putting your hands on somebody, placing your hands gently in this position or that position and citing different phrases and things to invoke energy. That's I'm just kind of glazing over and I'm probably not saying it all right. And what I recall from this experience, because I think it was a couple of days of class, and um, one of the practice sessions, I guess you could say, was that we were supposed to do like distant healing, if you've heard about that before, right? Like you're sending healing to someone else. You're sending it with your mind. You're visualizing and sending that to another person. And he had this basket with slips of paper in it and folded up. You couldn't see them. And he said, choose a slip of paper. And I chose a slip of paper. And on your own, you were supposed to send healing to the name of the person that was on the piece of paper. There was nothing else on it. It was their name. I didn't know them, never met them, no clue. And I remember, focusing on their name and paying attention to that. And in my mind's eye, right, in your mind, right? When I say in your mind's eye, as you're listening to me in your mind, you're visualizing certain things, like you're seeing things that I'm describing to you, you're seeing it there, right? If you're just like, or even as an example, if you think about a movie, you're like, oh, that part of that movie I loved, it comes to your mind and you see it in your mind. You don't see it in front of you. You see it in that space. And because I hate jargon in this industry, right? Just don't like it. So in your mind's eye, in your mind, you're visualizing. So when I started to think about the tools I'd been given in the class and how to practice, I started practicing. And we finished the exercise. And when we were done, the teacher went around the room to different students to ask them about their experience. Like, what was it like? What was going on? Whatever the feedback was. And as they got to me, I had said what the person looked like. I described that they wore glasses. I described their hair color. I described that they were sitting in a wheelchair. I described that they were a paraplegic. I described that what had happened to them. I described their age, appearance, everything. And the teacher looked at me and said, it's what they look like. And they acted like it was nothing. And I was like, holy shit. How would I know that? How would I know that? No fucking clue that I'm just supposed to be like visualizing, sending energy to somebody, and that's that. How would I know that? And that impacted me in such a way I was just like, holy crap, maybe I'm onto something here. But the teacher didn't seem phased. The teacher didn't seem interested. And the teacher didn't talk to me about it at all. They just went on to the next person, acted like nothing had happened. So that is the end of episode 4. You've been listening to me, Ursula Darby. This podcast is the raw truth about grief, spirit, and life with honesty, humor, and no bullshit.